Hello, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, and with me today is Shor Denny. And Shor Denny is here with Community Now, and this is the three C's of SEL, social emotional learning. The three C's are collaboration, communication, and community. Today's topic is going to be breaking down the lie. Breaking down the lie. Sure, education and diversity training is becoming more and more important in this heightened environment we're in. And, we're going to go back to a different school atmosphere as our children are, pretty much closing up this year, but rolling back into what education is going to look like in the fall. There'll be some changes, and culturally, they're going to be impactful. So, as we're looking at some of the changes with regards to education and diversity training and the new school atmosphere that's going to be coming as a result of being in a pandemic, and then going back to the new normal, whatever that's going to be, which we use again, how does all that play out when you think about the emphasis on teachers supporting racial inclusion in the way they present now?
I think that a lot of education for the educators needs to happen, right? We need a different programming that's going to talk about culture, diverse culture, and from the viewpoint of the minority, not the viewpoint of the conqueror, right? So
Mhm.
I think that there's a lot of room within our school systems, not even just for the teachers, but for administrators all the way down to the crossing guards to be educated in what culture is in a trauma-informed lens. And I say that because I think that educators, as well as all of those people that impact our youth, need to understand what trauma looks like and how they can see that in their youth. And a lot of that has to do with diverse and minority youth that are impacted in negative ways through our American society. So how can we look at systematic racism within the school institution from within, and how can we work on that is really what I'm talking about. And how can we help those who are actually pushing implicit bias and pushing stereotypes? How can we help them check themselves so that they support our youth in a more culturally equitable way?
I love the way that you're framing the question, that we need to seek this answer because it is critical for our community to continue to be progressive. If we don't do it, we're going to be in a world of hurt. We've found ways to be divisive, as we see in a lot of the violence that's been going through, especially at this period in the pandemic. But if we look at this inclusion, what can be done from a campus perspective? We can teach the kids, but from a campus perspective, what can be done to be more culturally inclusive?
We can have cultural centers on the campus, right, that
Hmm.
express and celebrate every culture. And I suggest incorporating culture into every day. Every day there should be some celebration. One way of doing that would be what happened in the world today.
Hmm.
Right. And look that up simply around the world and what happened in China or what happened in, and expressing that information to the youth and having a little discussion on that country right then would be a really simple way of
Hmm.
incorporating culture into every day. Having cultural clubs on a campus. And this is talking about to our Caucasian friends and saying, stop calling yourselves white, right? And start identifying with your culture so that we can have Irish Day, Swedish Day, right? Dutch Day on campus and celebrate every culture that came to America, instead of washing away the culture and thinking that there is none. So every culture gets celebrated almost daily. I think that's a way of incorporating that onto the campus.
Wow. I really respect the way you pointed out the nuances within a culture. I mean, we're not colors of a rainbow. We are people of different experiences that really contribute to the American culture in its aggregate. And I think that's really culturally when we're at our strength. But part of that, from a teaching standpoint, we still need to empower and adapt the student. Is there something that can be done with lesson plans to help them navigate culture through a trauma informed lens?
Well, that's where we start talking about breaking down the lie, because if educators can go outside of the box. If their administrators give them the room to, look for additional resources, then maybe our education system and our history wouldn't be so wrong, wouldn't be such a lie right now, because our educators would have been able to research and find real data that they could embellish their lesson plans with. So I would say being able to go outside a little bit and to be adaptable to what is more information that we can bring into the classroom is something that the educator can do. Also, I think that a demerit reward system on the campus also works. And we're not in the past. This isn't 1990, I'm going to say, where African American or a minority student can walk on a campus and a Caucasian student can walk up to them and say a racial slur and then laugh and walk away. I think this is a time in America where these things need to be dealt with on the school campus, and there should be some type of reward and demerit system that goes along with how our youth interact. And this could help build peer pressure in a positive way of speaking positively about cultures rather than negatively.
You know, again, just the language that you're talking about, being able to be more positive than negative, I think that's an incredible place to start. I think also that we have to be mindful, once again, that our teachers not just aren't equipped, but to your point, incented to make sure that they're bringing more of their true self, their culture. There is a past to them, there is a family tree, but I think opening up that type of sharing is a great way to teach our youth to open up with their sharing. And I think that creates the common American experience. We went from here and now we're all together there. So as we move down this path, and I think it's a progressive path, what kind of policies, will be impacted from a macro standpoint as we start drilling down on this racial balance that you're advocating?
I think educators really need to look at what we've just been talking about and incorporate that into policy, right? How can we include all cultures into the school in all kind of diverse and innovative ways, not just History Month, not just Black, Cinco de Mayo, not just, but how can we at the policy level celebrate all diversity within our campuses? And how can we do that in an equitable way? Would be, what we've said, educating our educators, making sure that they have a better understanding of what culture is from a trauma-informed lens, understanding safety that needs to be on the campus, that all youth should be safe. This is, again, is trauma-informed. And how can we make our campuses safe for everyone? And how can we incorporate that into policy? These are the things that, they should be looking at, and how they could be looking at making a more equitable policy for their schools.
I think particularly maintaining that trauma-informed lens is key to the success of some of the initiatives that you're discussing. I think also that as we're bringing more culture to the forefront in our learning, we have to bring our cultural heroes to the forefront. From an African American perspective, there are more famous Black people than LeBron James and Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
But I think we need to be able to embrace that from a broader cultural perspective. What are some of the steps do you think would help in bringing these cultural heroes to the forefront so we're embracing, the American experience?
I think that, we need to look at them not from the lens of them being superheroes, but from the lens of being human. Once right now with History Month or History Day, we're talking about the contributions of one person or another, but we never talk about really what that person is and what they've done and how they became, right? So it would be going to the next level and looking at, say, someone like Martin Luther King and saying that he belonged to a fraternity, right? Not just that he was, a pastor and he walked the Selma Bridge, or, but that he had a background and that he was educated and that he went to this certain college, and so that our youth can start to identify and our educators can identify, and then taking it a step further, right, and saying, well, wow, how did what his life experiences do, how did that get him into action, and understanding what fraternity he came from, that his wife was also an educated person from a sorority, and how maybe we could become that person. You know, how could I institute some of these things into my life, and making it into more of a decision making and social action that our youth are taking, and that we can incorporate within our own community. So when we look at Martin Luther King, we're not just looking at some distant man in the past that did this. We can now say, oh, I can relate to him because he did this or he did that, and I am doing that myself. Or I can aspire to what he is or what he's done because I can take some of the steps that he's taken in his life.
I tell you, being able to look at that from a cultural success lens is, I think, so important. You know, we're identifying heroes. We're going across the spectrum of different races, and we're just feeding that. And I think our youth are in a position now where they're willing to accept that. They're willing to receive it. It's not going to be easy, but even from a trauma-informed perspective, where they identify their challenges and pain involved with greatness, I think becomes much more tangible to them as they've had to endure their own trauma and pain during this pandemic. So, you know, kind of in closing, what's at the top of your wish list for our youth to be, really for our teachers to pour into our youth as the year winds down?
Woo. There are a few things I want our teachers to pour into our youth, but that needs to be poured into our teachers, right? Because
Yes.
we all need support, and we all need to be mentally well in this time. So the first thing would be mental wellness, coping skills, ways that they can problem solve their daily challenges would be the first thing that I want to pour into people's lives. And then second would be love, kindness, that I think that we would look at each other, as the Bible says, you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that we would see ourselves and others and see the love and the beauty, and that we would carry that with us through all of our days.
Wow. That is a great place to land right there. Shor, thank you very much for the insight. Thank you very much for the tangible paths that are available for our teachers to both take and administrators to enforce. There is a path for us to get our communities to start aligning under the American experience, and I think you did a great job of pointing that out. I know you're not done. There's more knowledge there. How do people find you?
www.communitynow.info is our website, or you can reach me at 951-413-6587. We'd love to hear from you. You can like, comment, share this, and let us know what you think. If there are any other topics that you'd like us to speak on, and that would be how you can reach us.
Outstanding. Once again, I'm Glenn W. Hunter, our subject matter expert, Shor Denny. This is the 3 C's of SEL, social emotional learning. And always, as we're going out and we're taking steps toward cultural progress, but there are many steps to take. I encourage you all to please be safe. Once again, thank you very much.